Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Patrick Glynn, and welcome back to the channel. Couple of things I wanted to discuss. One thing I wanted to discuss this morning, and maybe a couple of things, is a couple of new rules that are going to be enforced this year for the NHL. The board of governors have voted on these new rules, and they will be taken into effect for the 2017-2018 season. The first rule is that if you challenge an offside rule, an offside call for a goal or not, and you are unsuccessful, you will be administered a 2-minute penalty. I believe it will be for delay a game. Too many times last year we saw coaches just calling timeout when we knew that the guys were on sides and a goal was scored, and you know, and knowing that the goal was going to be scored just to not, just so we'll lose our challenge and it doesn't matter. We gave our guys a break and that's all the stuff. And they're sitting there discussing strategy. That'll no longer be the case. If you do challenge a timeout, I mean, not timeout, an offsides call, and a goal is scored, and you challenge it, and you are unsuccessful in your challenge, uh, you will be administered a 2-minute penalty, and the team will go on the power play. Thanks to the credit to the hockey guy, Shannon did break it down. He said about 33% of the times that the coaches had challenged the play, that the refs changed the call. So for all that, so this is going to cut down on that, and it's going to pick up scoring because teams will be going on to the power play, and it's going to be more emphasis on your on the specialty teams, which has been kind of down uh, in the few years. Back in the day, specialty teams was everything. I mean, basically, if you had a good power play and a good penalty kill, you were a dominant team and you could win the Stanley Cup. I mean, that's you need to put the emphasis on specialty teams again, and that's what the NHL is going to be doing with this new rule. So once again, if you challenge an offside call and a goal is scored, uh, and you are unsuccessful, you will be administered a 2-minute penalty. Uh, I believe I believe it'll be called for delay a game. That's basically what you are doing. The second rule that they came up with, icing. You are no longer allowed to call a timeout after an icing call. I call this the Peter Laviolette rule. Peter Laviolette is notorious for calling timeouts. Uh, I'm not going to complain. He did it a lot with the Flyers, and asked the Boston Bruins about the timeout in the 2010 Stanley Cup playoffs in Game 7 after the Flyers were down 3-0. Laviolette called the timeout, and it changed the dynamic of that game completely. And the Flyers came back to win 4-3. But I don't want to call it the Peter Laviolette rule. I don't think he does it a lot um, after an icing, but coaches tend to do this. Is that guys are getting peppered in the zone and they're getting shots off and they just clear it, and they're tired and the coach just calls timeout because the rule is if you ice the puck, the defensive team is not allowed to change lines. The offensive team can change lines, uh, but the defensive team cannot. What coaches wind up doing is that if a team is struggling, especially if it's late in a game, there was an icing call. Coach uses his timeout to give the guys a breather. You are no longer allowed to do that either. If the puck is iced, you are no longer to call a timeout. So those are the two new rules that the NHL has come up with. If you challenge unsuccessfully on an offside call after a goal is scored, you will be administered a 2-minute penalty, and you are no longer allowed to call timeout after an icing call. That is no longer allowed. Your players have to stay on the ice no matter if they're tired or not. So those are the two rules. I kind of like the rules. I think that you should be penalized for if you're arguing an offside call and a goal is scored. Flyers could have used that back in 1980 with Leon Stickle. Thanks a lot, but we would have been successful because the player was completely offsides and the goal was scored. So whatever. But I do agree with that rule. I like that rule that if you're basically delaying the game, and the games are going to be a lot shorter now. I mean, we're watching the play, and we can clearly see that it's offsides, and yet the guys just take 5 to 10 minutes just to look at it when we know TV's got the most angles, and the coaches can see it too because they've got the monitors in the benches, just like Shannon said that. The hockey guy said that. I'm kind of paraphrasing what he said, but I also have my take on it. I like the rule. I think it's a great rule. If it means speeding up the game and the games get done quicker, for me, I do the podcast after every Flyers game. It means more time for me to do videos and maybe being a little longer than I can normally do, because most of the time my videos are about 6 to 7 minutes because I'm in a rush to get to work. So hopefully I can go a little longer, go a little in depth, if the games are a little shorter. Because I like that rule. It's gonna speed the game up, and that's what makes hockey great, is the speed of the game. So no longer are you allowed to challenge an offside call if a goal is scored. You will be assessed the 2-minute penalty, and I like the I like the icing call too. Once again, it's going to speed the game up. Coaches are no longer allowed to take the timeouts to slow the game down. Your guys are tired. Your guys are tired. And what that's going to do, both these rule changes are going to do, it's going to increase scoring, and it's going to make the game a lot more exciting. Like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. Next couple of weeks, training camp starting. I'll be back. I'll be on with a Flyers preview coming up soon. As I always end my episodes, or I always end my podcast or my videos, from the late great Gene Hart. My friends, good night and good hockey.